Hi, my name is Dr. Emmanuel Hammer, and welcome to this channel. In a few minutes I'm going to try to explain why I'm creating this channel, and hence the first title, which I named as Why You Should Take Your Health in Your Own Hands. Now, a little bit of background about myself. When I was a young kid, I used to have this great passion for nature and wildlife. And eventually I grew up to be a medical doctor and specialized as an ophthalmologist, like an eye doctor. But my passion for nature and wildlife never went away. And so throughout the years of practice, studying, doing different courses in different countries, I realized a very weird phenomenon. I'm sure other people have realized it, doctors, scientists, you name it. But still, is that modern humans are now indicted with new diseases which we wouldn't get just a few hundred years ago, even like just the beginning of 19th century. However, wild animals living in the wild get the traditional diseases like acute infections, famine, hypothermia, malnutrition, etc., etc. We used to have these diseases, we still have them today, but they're not the main issue in modern world, in the modern life of humans. However, if you take those same, the phenomena is, if you take the wild animals from the wild and put them in a different condition, say in a zoo, in a lab, or even a human house, they will start to manifest over the years and generations the same diseases as humans do in the modern world. And of course, we're talking about, we're not going to name them, like just a few, like the diabetes, the heart disease, the cancers, and the autoimmune diseases, allergies, etc., etc. You can name all of them. So it's really not about genes anymore, because the old theory would say like, oh, you got this disease, this chronic disease, because it's in your genes. However, it's very well known that, again, with the wild animals, if you put them in the zoo, their fellow species in the wild don't get the same diseases. It's very well known, like scientists in the lab get bioidentical animals. Usually it's mice, rats, ferrets, rabbits, small animals, rodents. So they're bioidentical. They separate them and they control very strictly every aspect of their life in the lab, and they manifest different diseases. So it's absolutely not about the genetics anymore. Unless you were born with the genetical disease, chances are you can reverse this disease, whatever disease you're in, to a great extent. It will depend from person to person how much you can reverse from it. However, what plays a role is the epigenetics, what controls the genes. So the epigenetics are the outer shell, let's say, of the gene. It's above the gene, and whatever factors affect them, they will trigger which genes go on and off, and that's how genes play a role. So it's not in the traditional way we used to think. It's like programmed. Absolutely not. It's not about the genes. And also, just a quick example, there's something called sick building syndrome. So what's sick building syndrome? It's a bunch of people living or working in the same building, and they manifest the same diseases and symptoms, but they're not genetically related in any way. So there you have it. They're under the same environment, and they just get sick almost identical. So again, what we said is wild animals don't manifest the same diseases as humans. However, if you take those same animals and put them in a lab, you can almost induce every single disease, chronic disease you want. Of course, you're not going to pull in an elephant or a giraffe in a lab. It's going to be with much smaller animals, but it's the same. What are the factors that we changed in our environment? Everything, basically everything. The food we eat, the water we drink, the air we breathe, the light we're under, the electromagnetic fields, huge one, and light. We'll talk about that in a special video. Toxins. We're actually bathing in toxins, whether you knew it or not. And just think about this. There's about 120 million registered chemical toxins. Registered chemical toxins. 120 million. And about 100,000 of them are in our food. And even more than that are in the products we use on us and in the house, and all the creams, the sunscreens, the laundry, the detergents you use, everything. These are all chemicals that accumulate. And of course the body detoxifies but it can't keep up with all this. These things were never supposed to be in our system or around us or anything like that. So why you should take your health in your own hands? I'm just gonna give you a few examples from history, a little bit. We're gonna go back in history and to the modern day, and hopefully you'll get the idea, the picture, the point I'm trying to get to. So if you go back a few hundred years ago, like 17th, 18th century, there was a disease called scurvy, and it was deadly to sailors. So people back then would sail on boats and they'd go for weeks, months, maybe even years. And I don't know exactly how much time it took, depending, it was really individual. But eventually the sailors would start to get gum bleeding, and then they'd bleed from other parts of their body, and their bodies would just fall apart and they'd die. That was a pretty serious disease back then. It was deadly, fatal disease. And the picture was typical of an infection going on. Why? The sailors would manifest the same symptoms one after the other. So it was like one sailor was infecting the other, or a bunch of them were infecting everyone. And so the medical community was convinced for hundreds of years, actually, 200 years plus, that there was some kind of infection going on. But they never found it. Why? Because it turned out to be a vitamin C deficiency, a nutritional deficiency. So the point here is the medical community was convinced for 200 years plus in one direction, but reality was in a totally different direction. And other diseases as beriberi, pellagra, these all started as infections, and it took scientists and doctors decades and decades to figure out it was a nutritional deficiency. So just the point is, you could be thinking in one direction, it could go way too long before you figure out the real answer. The other story I want to say is GM foods. So one of the things, like I was saying, our food has changed, and we eat a lot of GM food, whether you knew it or not. However, there was a huge debate all over, it's still till now, but they try to shut it down, whether genetically modified food is safe to consume or not. So eventually the UK government back in the 90s and like 80s, 90s wanted to conduct an experiment, a study to show that GM food is safe once and for all. So they hired, the award went to the best nutritional scientist at the time. His name was Dr. Arpad Pusztai. He passed away actually lately, so we'll honor his life because he did such a good work. And Dr. Arpad Pusztai got the award, and as I said, he was the best scientist in his field back then, Hungarian scientist living in the UK. So he conducted a very simple experiment, and the experiment was he got 3 different groups of rats. One group was fed organic potatoes, the second group was fed conventionally grown potatoes, so some kind of herbicides, pesticides were used on them, but not GM, not genetically modified. The third group of rats ate the genetically modified potatoes. And very shortly, within, I can't remember, 10 days or a few weeks, only the group of rats that was eating the genetically modified potatoes started to show a lot of health issues. Namely, tumors grew, malformation of inner organs, and a whole host of other health issues. And of course, the experiment was repeated by him and by others, and they always came to the same result. The rats that were eating the genetically modified food got sick, while the others didn't. So in 1998 and 1999 something, Dr. Arpad Pusztai went live and published the studies and spoke about it, and it was a huge sensational study which kind of sent shockwaves around Europe and in the UK, and he was considered a hero. But here's the thing, after he published his studies, and the conclusion was GM foods aren't safe as of the moment he did the study. In just 2 days, he said in 2 days after Dr. Arpad Pusztai published his study and went live, he was fired from his job, his study was retracted, and he was demonized, ridiculed, considered whatever, all hell broke loose on him, and he kind of lost his career. Actually, he didn't give up, and he fought them, and he won, like after 7-8 months. He got to publish studies again, but you get the picture. Big corporates will do anything to prove that their products are safe and effective. And nowhere else safe and effective. Where have you heard that? Nowhere else is it seen more than with Dr. Andrew Marino. So Dr. Andrew Marino he's a medical doctor and a lawyer at the same time. So it's a very rare combination you find in one person. And he worked with Dr. Robert O'Becker, most famous bone surgeon back then in the 50s and 60s. And Dr. Andrew Marino and Dr. Robert O'Becker conducted a lot of experiments and studies. And they actually were able to show in their studies and lab experiments that big tech companies, like anything electromagnetic really, like radars in the American Army, let's for example, and on anything microwave, anything is harmful. In the labs it showed a lot of health issues with lab animals, and they fought the big tech companies. Dr. Andrew fought the big tech companies back then, and he dragged them to court, and he had a few wins, but basically it was impossible for him to win because the big corporates, the big companies with tremendous amount of money they have and the connections above, and actually with the politicians, they bring them into office. Basically big tech companies bring the politicians into office, so they can easily pull the strings. They can easily hire the best scientists, pay them money, and of course for them to pay the scientists money to conduct the experiments, and of course the result will come that their products are safe and effective. So if you read his book, Going Somewhere, Truth About Life in Science, Andrew Marino, PhD, JD, you'd actually have a better understanding of what's going on nowadays. It's been happening all over, way back then, and it's still happening till this day. So, unfortunately, the truth hurts sometimes. Now, what are you going to do when the medical community could be easily wrong for a few hundred years, like in the case of scurvies? What are you going to do when big tech companies and big corporates can easily conduct studies, hire the scientists, the best universities, big names, and pay them money, and of course the studies will show that their products are safe and effective? What are you going to do when, like in a study in the case of Arbat Budzai, when the study showed that GM foods were unhealthy, but with one phone call, the whole thing was annihilated? That's how powerful they are. You don't have that much time, of course. In my opinion, there's only one way you can't go wrong. And before I continue, you can actually agree, disagree, partially agree, that's all absolutely fine. There's only one way, and that is you live by the rules of nature. And so you're going to tell me, great Dr. Matt, what are we going to live like Tarzan and Jane, naked in the jungle? I wish we could do that. Of course we can't. I'm totally realistic, and I live also in an unnatural world a lot of the time. However, I biohack the rest of it. Or shall I say, you need to live by the rules of nature. Why? Why can't you go wrong by the rules of nature? Because your body, your cells, every single cell, every single program in your body has been working with nature, programmed to work with nature for the past 4 billion years, plus minus, of course. Don't quote me on that, but you get the message. You can actually tweak a lot of things in your life gradually. You're not going to do them at once because it's impossible. You can tweak a lot of things in your life. Some things you can do as nature intended. If you can't, we'll teach you how to biohack them in the other way. And put it simply, you need to rewild yourself. And if you do that, you will absolutely be shocked how your health will start to slowly improve. We're talking about weeks and months. We're not talking about 10 years, of course. And that's it. It's so simple that some of you might find it hard to believe, especially if you're in the medical field. I know that. But however, in the coming series of the videos, I'm going to be talking about lots of stuff, how to do it naturally or biohack it if you can't. And so we'll make it as simple as possible. By the end of this video, I hope I delivered the message and you got some benefit from it. For most of you out there with minimum health issues, what I say on this channel should be enough to keep you healthy and for a long time. For other people who have more advanced health issues, what I say here is a good foundation to start, but it won't be enough. And here's where, if you want to heal yourself in a more natural way, where you'll need to hire somebody like a healthcare professional, health coach, nutritionist. You can do that in your local community, or you can hire me remotely if you want. The way it works is you shoot me an email on the link below. I'll get in contact with you. We'll schedule a free phone call, of course, so I get to know your case and see the best way I can help you. Other than that, stay tuned for more interesting videos. If you like what you're seeing here, please subscribe, share, and like. And for now, have a great day. This is Dr. Imad Al-Hamra.